Welcome to Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan.
So in naturopathic medicine, we believe that disease is caused by obstacles.
Because my category is so limited, there's usually never more than 3 or 4 people. The last one I did, there were 5 people.
This is Front and Center with your host, Jacquie Jordan.
Entertainment and pop culture expert Jacquie Jordan is with us.
2-time Emmy-nominated Hollywood producer Jacquie Jordan.
We are the show where we talk with the change agents, the storytellers, and the activators, making impact from behind the scenes. Welcome to Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan. I am Jacquie Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to find out more about our past podcasts or broadcast shows, you can find us on YouTube on Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan. And you can also listen in on any place that you enjoy listening and hearing your favorite podcasts. Today, we have a fantastic lineup, and I'm really excited to share it with you. We've got Dr. Kendra Becker coming on. She's the author of A Delicious Way to Heal the Gut and also All You Can Eat. She's a doctor in naturopathy and integrative medicine, and she's going to share with us what it is like to stay healthy in this crazy time period. And we're also going to dive in a little bit about that spike protein we've all been hearing about. And later in this episode, we're going to have Sarasota's bikini fitness model, Cyndi Welch. She's 67 years old and competing on the circuit, and we're going to find out more what it takes to train and be a fitness model. And I love that these women are setting the example and the bar for us. Speaking of women who've set the bar for us, I just watched the HBO series Being Mary Tyler Moore. Now, I think there's a whole entire generation who has no idea who Mary Tyler Moore is. But when I was growing up, Mary Tyler Moore was such a big deal, especially the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I believe that she even had an unconscious impact on my current career in television and my own life trajectory. And so I watched the documentary. It was really fascinating to see the whole behind the scenes story about what it's like, and also look at it from the lens of this time and space period that we're in, how she went from the Dick Van Dyke Show to Mary Tyler Moore, and then had to suffer her own personal tragedy. So it was a really interesting look and to a very fascinating woman. At the time when her show ran, she would have like 23 million viewers, and for television, that was huge. Television has changed so much; they rarely get that size viewership anymore. But the Mary Tyler Moore Show was a really big impact. So it was really great to see this fantastic woman and what it was like being her. Because I think sometimes people become their own characterization of the characters that we play. We see that sometimes still in the media and in celebrity culture, but I found that really fascinating with Mary Tyler Moore. So I thought that was a really good documentary to watch. And I also finally listened to the audio podcast of Prince Harry's The Spare, which I think has a really great title. And as a ghostwriter myself and a New York Times bestselling publisher, I listened to about 12 minutes of the book, and then I refunded it. And I have to tell you, I wanted to call the bluff on the book because I could tell from my own professional experience that Prince Harry was not very involved in writing the book. And as ghostwriters, we sometimes have to interpret or pull on public information. And when I was listening to the book, I was like, there is nothing here that I didn't already know from the public scope of things. So I didn't get anything deeper about Princess Diana or what it was like to be raised by her. And even though he was quite young, he was still old enough to have very specific and unique memories that he could have shared. So I felt that the book was a disappointment, and I refunded it and got my credit back, which is also interesting because I also see that Spotify just dropped Meghan Markle's podcast at this time. And if you've been watching any of my clips or any of my YouTube placements, I speak a lot about the agenda for Americans to take in Meghan Markle and Prince Harry as one of their own. And so, but they're not giving up a lot. But the Mary Tyler Moore documentary had a little bit more meat to it. And I felt like you got something from the inside. And it's always really interesting to watch a celebrity figure from this perspective in this time period than it was from the previous. So with that said, I hope you stick around. We've got Dr. Kendra Becker coming up, and followed by Sarasota's bikini fitness model, Cyndi Welch. Stay tuned.
What God gives us is our genetics, but that doesn't define us. Our environment and what we put into our body and put on our body and expose to our body is a far greater implicator of our health.
Welcome back to Front and Center. I'm Jacquie Jordan. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you'd like to follow us, please subscribe to us on YouTube or any place that you listen to your favorite podcast. Joining me today is Dr. Kendra Becker. She's the author of A Delicious Way to Heal the Gut and All You Can Eat, which means to me that you follow your gut instinct on everything that you do. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, at the top of the show, I was talking about actually Mary Tyler Moore, because they've got a documentary about her on HBO, and she ended up dying of diabetes. So she had a lifelong condition of natal diabetes. But you're a doctor of naturopathy with a long history, and I love what you do because you do more preventative medicine. Give me a little bit of background just on the whole gut, mind, brain philosophy that you practice.
Oh, absolutely. So in naturopathic medicine, we believe that disease is caused by obstacles. And the medicine actually, when we remove the obstacle, we have a cure. So I think it's a beautiful, perfect kind of modality to use. So we also believe that all disease begins and ends in the gut. So your gut's got to be healthy, and that will then translate to your body being healthy. And if your gut is out of balance or unhealthy, then your body will be unhealthy. And interestingly enough, in the last 10 years, we've learned that the microbiome, the landscape of the gut, is now very similar to the landscape or the microbiome that we see in our brain and nervous system. So again, our gut and our brain are very, very intimately connected.
And so, so some of the work that you work with women our age, particularly.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of changes in that whole part of our anatomy.
Correct.
What are some of the things that you see as we become of this age as women that we need to be like paying attention to? So
it's funny that you say that, because I think 5 years ago, I would have said, oh, it's diet. Now there's definitely a shift in how our bodies manage the macros, so macros are fat, carbohydrates, and protein. So I always say in your 30s and 40s, we're in our baby making phase, right? So our bodies have a different relationship with carbohydrates. You need carbohydrates to maintain pregnancies and athleticism. And then as we get a little bit older, we're in the baby chasing phase. So our relationship with carbohydrates change. So I really truly believe in a paleo or a ketogenic type diet for women in their upper 40s and 50s. I think it's a better, a more efficient way to burn calories. And I really feel like after 40, nobody should be counting calories. And that way we just look at our macros. We eat a very clean, nutrient-dense diet that eliminates a lot of complex carbohydrates. It increases our energy. It increases our, emotional balance, and certainly helps our guts work much better.
I so appreciate that. And I've talked about that here on the show because I call it the food program. We've been giving so many food programs that it's like, should we eat this or shouldn't we eat this? That we don't even know anymore what is safe. And you kind of cut to the chase with it all right now.
Absolutely. And it's not that complicated. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote my second book, is because what you hear, somebody comes in the office, now they make the first commitment and they wait 3 months to get in, and then they come in the office and I'm like, you got to do the diet. And they're like, I don't want to do the diet. And I'm like, you got to do the diet. And then, you go into this whole complicated phase where they think everything is so complicated. What I hear a lot is, I'm Italian, I can't give up pasta. I ate sandwiches every day of my life, I can't give up bread. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. If you look at your dinner plate and half your plate is, protein, and then a quarter of it is, healthy carbs like broccoli or green vegetables, and then the other quarter of it is fat. That's things like butter and olive oil and bacon and avocado, things that are delicious to eat. It's not anything that is, you're not suffering or feeling like you're going to go hungry on a diet that doesn't have any carbohydrates.
And it's true, because when you actually eat really healthy and well, you're naturally satiated.
Absolutely.
And, you don't have cravings, so you don't have to deal with that.
Totally true.
So we're going to talk about the dirty word that everybody's been, the two words, there's many dirty words in the past couple of years in terms of health, but the spike protein.
Oh, yes.
The famous spike protein is also a gut issue.
For
so
sure.
what have you been seeing with that in the
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, when we first were exposed to the spike protein, I saw a whole influx. And so my practice is small, you know, it's only about 5,000 patients, but I use it as a microcosm for, you know, at least the holistic community where, you know, I am a part of. And so what I was seeing initially, even in my own family, I saw kids and adults that were getting out in public on airplanes or in the mall, and they would get nosebleeds. And I thought it was so strange until I saw about 24 patients come in with the same complaint. And I realized that was actually, these people had not been vaccinated, but they were exposed to the spike protein. And, you know, the microclotting was causing these issues with nosebleeds. And it was almost like something that you tried and true with your patients. All right, go to the mall, spend a couple hours there, and then come home and let's see what happens. And almost all of them would report that they were having issues. And so that was kind of on the outset when everybody had first started getting vaccinated. Then the long-term stuff starts to show up about a year and a half later, and it's menstrual irregularities. In women, menstrual irregularities. Young girls were getting irregular periods, or older women that were having inconsistent periods are now having these heavy, you know, really, really challenging, cramping, you know, painful, you know, exsanguinating kind of periods. Women were trying to get pregnant or would be able to get pregnant and have a lot of early miscarriages at like 5 or 6 weeks. And that stuck around for a little while. Now we have a lot more information about how to support our patients, both from preventative and from management standpoints. And I think that's been really effective for us.
And so the spike protein can come in like one or two ways. It can either come in from the actual the infection,
correct,
the infection itself, or it could come in from also the shot as well.
Correct.
So either side of it, you can end up with some spike protein.
Correct. And the issue is of course, we know that the virus itself was modified.
Right.
And my concern with the vaccine is not so much, everybody, you know, keeps talking about mRNA as being kind of the buzzword. mRNA is super fragile. You know, we use mRNA in therapeutic aspects to be able to help heal people with brain injury and brain trauma and, you know, heal from car accidents and broken bones. And it can be very effective in a good way, but it's super, super fragile. It's, you know, damaged by heat and light. And so it's not the mRNA that I'm terribly concerned with. It's more of the nanoparticles that allow the movement and the management of the mRNA through the body that is causing a bigger issue in my concern.
That's interesting. And so I know there was a bunch of us, and it's not necessarily a medically sanctioned way of doing it, but a lot of us did live blood analysis.
Yes.
A lot of us, some of us who had the shot, some of us who didn't have the shot.
Right.
And, you know, they all look, the blood looked the same.
Yeah.
And I always say for the folks that didn't get the shot, they still look like they were uploaded with the hardware.
Correct.
And that's what you're talking about, the carrier.
Exactly. And you know, I mean, I focus a lot on genetics and epigenetics, which is above the genetics. So it looks at not, you know, what God gives us is our genetics, but that doesn't define us. Our environment and what we put into our body and put on our body and expose to our body is a far greater implicator of our health. And so like you said, we all have the hardware, but at some point you can clean that hard drive and update it or discard it. And it's the software that actually drives the management of that hardware that can be much more challenging.
And so what are some of the protocols that you've been recommending to your clients that are either got it through the infection, got it through the shot, or got it through the friend of the person who got the
exactly
one or the other at this point?
So we use a lot of nattokinase. You know, Dr. McCullough is a big name in COVID, you know, management. Yeah. He's a good guy. And so Dr. McCullough recommends a lot of nattokinase. I've had great success with that even prior to COVID. You know, there's some evidence that shows that it does reverse cardiac disease. Does help with brain injury. So
it's like annihilates a spike protein, basically.
Absolutely. Binds it, makes it inert, and then allows the body to eliminate it. And then all the stuff that we all said from the beginning, which
zinc.
Yeah, exactly.
Vitamin C.
Zinc, vitamin C, quercetin, NAC. The other thing that's been really helpful in both, you know, exposure and, you know, spike protein management is glutathione.
Glutathione, yeah.
So any way you can get it, you know.
And that's why it was a problem for people who were older, because we stopped making glutathione naturally.
Correct.
And that was why older people were more, they couldn't figure out why it wasn't happening in children, but older people were.
Right. And why kids are basically immune, you know, both even to the spike protein. The conversion rate in kids for the spike protein is much lower than in adults because their immune systems are moving so quickly. They don't differentiate. They just toss all the stuff. So.
And then what I found fascinating then is, so I love kind of learning that the mRNA itself is fragile.
Yes.
So when they are putting it in, now using it with animals that are going to be, in the food supply of animals,
right.
What are your thoughts on that?
So I was in a think tank at the very beginning with COVID. I don't buy Louboutins. We don't fly to Europe or ride on the Titanic. We geek out and, analyze viruses and bacteria. So sorry, it's what we do for our spare time. So we spent a lot of time looking at the COVID virus itself, looking at how we predicted it would mutate, what we thought it would cause as far as, death and damage, for a population. And we were pretty right on from the very beginning, prior to the announcement of the pandemic. So I'm happy to say with that. I've kept in touch with a lot of these MD, PhDs, and one is in particular is a specialist in mRNA, and they work with mRNA on a daily basis. And the amount of protective mechanisms that have to be in place for them to even expose mRNA to oxygen is totally crazy. It's such a delicate, friable organism, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so so when all this came out about the food, I called them and I said, well, what do you think? I grow my own food. I'm not worried about me.
You have a farm.
I got a farm. I'm good. But I was, you need to be able to give advice as a doctor to your patients.
Right.
And so their advice was, there's not much that you need to be concerned about with regard to them using mRNA or spraying it on food because it is so friable. And I think the same thing does apply to injecting it into animals. The only concern is I worry about the viability of the animals because it can upregulate an immune system,
right,
which is what it's meant to do. And then we worry about cancers and autoimmune conditions. And that may be some of the catalyst for the FDA or the farmers to say this is not, animal protein that's suitable for human consumption.
Got it. Yeah.
So I wonder if that's the route that they'll go.
Right. I like how you use that language, up-level immune system. That is real. But that's really what it is, right? Yeah. So, when you think about it, because is it autoimmune disease or is it cancer? It's all just a misdirection or miscommunication in our immune system. Interesting. So getting back to basics is getting that microbiome in the gut, detoxing the things in the system that are not supposed to be there.
Supposed to be there. Exactly.
And so you have a practice here in Sarasota as well as in Connecticut.
I do.
And we can follow you on Instagram.
Absolutely.
If you'd like to learn more, you can find Dr. Kendra Becker's books on Amazon, A Delicious Way to Heal the Gut and All You Can Eat. And I really thank you so much for joining us here today on Front and Center.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
They don't necessarily go on looks. It's not a beauty contest. It's more of a fitness contest.
Welcome back to Front and Center. I'm Jacquie Jordan. Please feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube. We'd love to also hear from you. And you can find us on any place that you listen to your favorite podcast. Welcome back. I am joined here with a dear friend of mine, Cyndi Welch, and she is Sarasota's bikini fitness model at 67 years old. I know she's dying that I'm introducing her that way, but look at her. Look how fabulous she is. Cyndi, I always get the sense about myself that my life is just about to begin, but you actually live like your life is just about to begin.
Every day.
When did you get into fitness modeling? Or why?
20 is that's the bigger question. I got into it because I went to watch a girlfriend that was turning 40 and wanted to, do a fitness competition. I thought, okay, I'll just go support her. And I've been going to the gym for 45 years. And I thought, when I saw her, I was like, I can do that. Little did I know
what you were into.
Teeny weeny bikinis and 5-inch heels in front of people. But,
you literally are what we talk about here on Front and Center, behind the scenes people who are making a difference or an impact. And you are a behind the scenes person as a former, but film makeup artist and television artist and makeup artist. So you were behind the scenes. And now you're on stage.
And that was another career I started when I was 50.
Wow.
This I did my first competition at 63.
63 was your first competition for bikini fitness model.
And I'm in that age group now where I have to ask them nicely to put in a 60 and over. category because they don't have them.
They don't have them.
I guess life stops when you turn 50.
Is that what happens? Oh goodness, I hope
I'm
not.
like, I don't think so. I think it just has been better for me.
So tell me a little bit about like what is involved. What is like the fitness routine involved for being a bikini fitness model at 67?
Well, my kids think that I'm crazy for one.
And you're a grandma, which we love.
Great grandma.
Great grandma. Okay.
Yes. And my oldest son said, he thinks I like the discipline, which I think I do. I've always been a real disciplined person. So I like the sheer fact that I can cook all my meals, get them ready to go instead of standing in front of the refrigerator and thinking, what am I going to eat? And eating everything but what I'm not supposed to eat and then end up eating that anyway. So it really keeps me on track, especially because of the fact that I'm only 4'8".
Which is for my statue, that's actually really small.
Yes, nothing's conducive to 4'8". You can't reach anything in the grocery store, not even with heels on.
Yeah, airline seats are too big.
Yeah.
Car seats are too.
It's the bane of my existence, but what are you going to do?
But you make it up in other areas. That's why I was able to have a semblance of physical acceptance about myself was because I was so small in life, the shortest girl in the class, always.
Always.
Yes. And so, I wasn't going to make myself taller, no matter. No. That just wasn't. No. And so I have a level of self-acceptance that a lot of women just don't get with themselves because of my height.
Well, up until this year, I thought I was 4'10". Apparently that's a lie.
Do they measure you for height at your competitions?
They do, because there are certain categories. If there's enough women, there's categories that go 5'4" and under, and then 5'4" and above, and then I think it's 5'6" and above. So they definitely have categories, but because my category is so limited, there's usually never more than 3 or 4 people. The last one I did, there were 5 people. Now I'm doing a national show in Pittsburgh in July, and last year when I did it, they had 16 women over 60. And at least 9 of us were over 65.
Oh, 9 over 65.
Yeah, and they did not have a height category.
Oh, interesting.
Now, this year I did get a notice that there is a height category. So I'm like, yes, works for me. Not that it'll make a difference in my placement, but, I always think I don't want to stand next to somebody that's 5'8".
Right. I guess, yeah, that would kind of be like just not an equal comparison.
No.
What are some of the things that they judge you for? Like, how does that work?
It just all depends. They don't go on, they like the fact that your hair and makeup are put together, but they don't necessarily go on looks. It's not a beauty contest. It's more of a fitness contest. So they just want to make sure the muscles are in proportion. They're not too big because that would be a completely different category.
Okay.
It's just, when I ask the judges for their feedback, it's always glutes and hamstrings. I'm like, all right.
And what do you do to correct that? Like, what do you do?
You do a lot of leg work.
A lot of leg work. Just we want more squats.
Yes, your tush is sore all the time.
So you also have done competitions here in Florida, where you reside. Been very active. You go to shows in Orlando. Is that fair to call it shows?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're shows. And their shows, I've been as far away as, let's see, I've been to Nashville, Pittsburgh, Orlando. I'm going to Charleston this year. I've never been, so I'm excited about going to Charleston. And I don't know why I never knew this existed when I was in California.
Oh, interesting. Is it more popular now, or has it always been around?
I think weightlifting has always been around, especially with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I don't think women got into it. And I don't think that because I was I was pretty active. I worked a full-time job, and then I played softball 5 nights a week.
You know what I love about it? We call it a competition. But what I've learned from you is that it's actually, the women are not competitive with each other.
No, they're all really nice backstage.
Yes.
I was shocked.
Yeah. So the experience and the enrichment of the women that you've met who do it and participate has been really more of a sorority as opposed to
Yes, it's not like
Mean
beauty
Girls.
contests that I see that, they're like catty and mean. It'll like, turn your hair curling iron up high so you could burn your hair. I don't know.
Right.
That just doesn't happen. And I do a lot of makeup and hair for the girls.
which is fun, right?
So yes, it is early mornings though. Like,
But you're
3
used to
a.m.
early mornings.
I am. I
Well,
do my
why are you-
workouts at 3 a.m.
She does her workouts at 3 a.m. So all of you type A people who think 5 a.m. is early, Cindy's already
Yes.
been to the gym and home.
That's so I can do your makeup at 6.
Back pocket. So what do you do for meals? Like what is the meal? Because we just had Dr. Kendra Becker on, and she's got 2 books about eating for your gut and what it's like. She talks about, she's very pro paleo or keto for women over 50 or in their late 40s and up. Like, how does that work for you?
Well, the keto, back in the day, it was the same plan as, Atkins,
Right.
basically. And there's a lot of fat and a lot of cheese in that one. And
If Atkins knew, though, he was going to slip and fall in New York City and die, I always wonder, would he have eaten more bagels? I just always wondered that. Like, if you knew that was your outcome, would I have eaten more?
Well, they have a very strict meal plan. The closer you get to competition, that week, they call it peak week. There's a lot of us women that call it other things because you get very little food and you get very hangry very fast. But I have, I have proteins and I have vegetables. It's not like I eat a lot of protein, probably for the day. And I eat 5 meals a day, every 3 hours. And it's 10 ounces for the day for protein. Vegetables, I have 4 ounces at one meal and 6 at another. And then this plan right now, I get 5 ounces of potatoes twice a day. So I either eat sweet potatoes or baby potatoes, and I put them in my air fryer. It makes it taste like they're Frenched.
How far do you think you're going to take this?
I wanted to get into the 70 category.
Wow.
And because it would be fun to get the pro card.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right now I'm at that age at 67 where the category only goes 60 to 70. So I'm like, okay, because these are not cheap.
No, I'm sure
the
it's an
competitions
investment.
are not cheap.
The bathing suits, even though they're so little, even though they're teeny bitty, they're very expensive.
Yes.
Well, we're going to wish you a tremendous amount of luck, but I suspect that you don't need it because you've got discipline and practice. And I look forward to seeing you get into the 70 category.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. And thank
thanks.
you so much for sharing with us.
Well, thanks.
And you can find out more about Cyndi or all our guests on frontandcenterpodcast.com. And you can subscribe to us at Front and Center on YouTube and find us on any place that you listen to your favorite podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on Front and Center. I'm Jacquie Jordan.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan podcast. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at TVGuestpert. We'd love to hear from you.